So who's ever struggled to create a positive habit? I know I have. So how can you create success habits that help you feel energy and joy? And what's the science behind creating new habits? And how can you actually make it easy to do? Hi, I'm Marianne from One Life to Flourish, and welcome to this series that's all about helping people who are wanting to own a business to actually set up the skills and the processes and some of the inspiration to actually make that happen. Now, today I'm actually talking about putting into place some habits that will actually help you to get organized, ready for your business, or if you're already starting your business, to actually help things run a little bit more smoothly. Now, before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you know of someone who would be interested in this particular topic or is just generally focusing on wanting to be a business owner, please invite them over to view. Otherwise, we are going live on a number of different locations. So the place of origin is My Time TV Live. So if you want to make any comments or ask anything as I go through, you may need to make sure that you're viewing from that platform. Otherwise, I always try and catch up with any questions or comments after if I don't see them during. Now, today I've had a few technical difficulties, so please forgive me if I'm looking down at my notes a little bit. My teleprompter just went black just as I was about to start. So we'll see how we go. All right, so I'm going to take you through a little bit of a process that I'm quite passionate about that is something that I've kind of been investigating and reading about and so on quite a lot and have used personally to actually make some big transformations in my life. And this is looking at how we can use tiny habits to make a big change in our life. And it's something that you can actually do quite easily, which is what I love. All right, so before we get into that actual process, and you might find it useful to actually have a little bit of paper and a pen or something to jot some ideas down once we get to the process, if you've never heard of this before or been through this before. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at a little bit of the traditional ways of habit forming and why they're probably not as successful as they could be. So the first one is the willpower method. Now, basically it works something like this. And this might bring back a few little flashbacks of the past, but essentially you decide on some big thing that you want to achieve and you get started on working on it every day. And apparently, if you do that for 21 days in a row, you're going to have a habit in place. So think New Year's resolutions. This is most often the way that they work. So you kind of go, yes, new year, new me, I'm going to be doing whatever. And you start off gung-ho on the 1st of January, and usually before you're anywhere near those supposed 21 days, you've kind of fallen in a hole. And there are reasons for that. But just as a little aside to that, if you hear things about it only taking, 21 days to form a habit, please take that with a pinch of salt. This is not actually what the research shows. And in actual fact, it really varies depending on what the habit is. You can actually have a habit, if it's created in the right way, in the right circumstances, that is almost an instantaneous habit that you'll keep doing. And others, because of the nature of them, may take a lot more time, definitely more than 21 days. And yet some of them might take around 21 days. It really does vary. So ignore any of that stuff if you're hearing 21 days to do whatever. Okay, it's not really going to happen, and you're probably more likely to be heading down the pathway of this willpower kind of goal setting. So why doesn't this work? Why is it that, our New Year's resolutions just kind of collapse in a heap? Basically, it's all around the idea of willpower. if we rely on willpower, we're not relying on something that is reliable. So your willpower is not a superpower. It's actually more like a muscle. So if you think about it, if you plan on spending, say, all day out doing some heavy lifting, whatever, doing a bit of, tidying up, cleaning up around the garden, where it's going to be a lot of physical activity, what happens to your muscles over that day if you're spending all day out doing that? What you'll find is as the day progresses, your muscles begin to feel fatigued, and how long you can keep going on the process depends on, I suppose, the kinds of stuff you're doing and the strength of your muscles. So willpower is a bit like that. It's kind of like a mind muscle in a way. And all day long, particularly if we're working and that kind of thing, there'll be situations where we actually have to use willpower to get through them. And willpower is usually used when we don't have a habit in place. So the more we use our willpower, the more depleted it comes. So then we get home from work, we've got our new habit of whatever it is, being, avoiding the chocolate or whatever, and your willpower has been already depleted during your workday. So you've got nothing to stop you from going out and having chocolate or whatever else it is. Okay, could be a whole range of different things. So this is the least effective way of actually building habits. Now, the next way, and there's more than what I'm going to talk about today, but the next way is kind of like the vision and goal setting way of building habits. And this can be a little bit more successful, and there's a reason for that. But over time, it tends to kind of drop off. So basically, it works this way. You start off with your big vision for the future. This could be a written vision. This could be a vision board. It could be, I don't know, all kinds of different things. So somehow you've envisaged what you want your future to be in, say, 5 years. You've kind of got that vision clear. And then the next step is to actually break it down into some long-term, kind of mid-term and short-term goals. So it's kind of going 5 years, 1 to 2 years, and usually monthly. So it's actually not a bad way to do it because you're kind of breaking it down into smaller steps that are a little bit more chunk-sized and, could potentially work better. Now, the problem with this method is usually that it doesn't actually go down to the very tiny micro steps that you need to actually have an easy process for getting your habits being built. So I'm just checking my notes again. As I said, teleprompter gone, so I'm just checking where I'm up to. All right, so now the thing with this process is that it relies on your motivation and enthusiasm as part of it. And the reason why it can often drop off over time is because it's hard to sustain that level of motivation that you need to keep going on building these different things month after month, year after year, to arrive at your, way off in the future kind of vision. The way our brains work, we also like to focus on the here and now. If it's way off in the future, then it seems less important, even though it's probably more important. So there's a few reasons with how our brain works as to why this kind of method can be a bit tricky. However, I do like to start with that method as the basis for starting to build my habits. And, my actual process that I'm going to take you through does start from that point. All right, so what I'm going to take you through today is actually my interpretation of work done by Professor B.J. Fogg, who was kind of the initial instigator of research around how we can effectively create habits and came up with the idea of tiny habits. Now he's got, different kinds of information out there, but particularly a book that he's written and also recorded audibly Now, there's also other researchers and writers who've added on to that, and I've kind of read lots of them. I am a little bit obsessed with how we create habits, to be honest. So in the program today, I can only skim the surface of what it's all about, but hopefully there'll be a few tips in there that can actually help you. All right, so where do I actually start? As I've already said, I start with that big vision stuff. So where do I want to be in, 2 to 5 years? And then I kind of break it down and start to see where it's all at. Now, one reason I start there is because you do need to have motivation to actually get you started in any kind of habit forming. So I'm really motivated to achieve my future vision. And as I break it down into goals, I can go, yeah, this is all going to be fine. Yes, I'm motivated. I want to keep going. And, it's actually a really good process to actually go through, break it down. And then you get to, like your monthly kind of goals. And that's where the magic starts to happen. So let me kind of show you how I have done it in my life. All right, so basically I created a vision back in 2017 that I wanted to live a really healthy, sustainable life, which I was not doing at the time. This is why I had that as my big vision. And I kind of worked it all out. My big goals ended up being along the lines of, kind of eating really healthy food and losing weight, becoming physically active so I could actually enjoy getting out and doing stuff, and also just kind of my mental health as well. So being calm and being happy. That was my starting point. And they were my big vision things that I kind of broke down further and further until I got to, each little monthly thing that I was going to work on. So just to give you a little bit of context to this, at the time I was massively overweight. In fact, much as I hate to say it, I was classified as obese. I could not walk more than a couple of 100 meters without starting to feel exhausted. And if I went any further, I would start to feel quite physically ill. Can't even believe that it was like that now, but it was. And I was in this kind of constant cycle of anxiety and depression. Hi, Roz, how are you? And I was just sick of my life, basically. So this is why I went through this whole process. And I needed it to succeed. I knew that if I kept going the way I was, I probably wasn't going to be around on the planet too much longer. So it was, kind of at that point where I had to do something. So having said that, all right, so I've got one of my short-term goals. I ended it up being I wanted to exercise for 10 minutes a day. Now, that doesn't even sound like too difficult a goal, does it? But for me, it was like a mountain. Remember? Could not walk more than a few hundred meters without total exhaustion. So to make it successful, I had to make it tiny, and I had to come up with what the smallest or what the very, tiniest starting step of that goal would look like. What would be the smallest possible point that I would consider to be success, but would be part of me achieving that goal? So I had to kind of think about it. I did play around with it a little bit. And I eventually decided that the smallest possible thing that I could do that would start me along the right track and feeling successful. And the other part of this is a time thing. So to have success, you need to make sure that whatever the action is, you can do it in about 30 seconds. Otherwise, your motivation to do it just kind of disappears, which makes me think of Mel Robbins with her 5-second rule. It's along the lines of that, but it can be up to 30 seconds. So I decided that what I was going to do first up was put on my exercise shoes and stand up and then see if I wanted to take a step. All right, that was kind of as low as I felt I could take it and feel successful. So then it came to the next part of the whole process. To be successful, I needed to have some kind of a trigger, something that I could kind of hang this thing that I wanted to become a habit onto, to kind of ensure that there was more likelihood of success with doing it. So I thought about, what habit do I have every day, almost every day, this is a work day, that I could actually, tag this idea of putting my exercise shoes on too. And I thought, probably to, make sure I got it done, it was best to do it as soon as I got home. And my habit when I got home was to go in, put all my work stuff down, and then go and sit on the couch. Remember, couch potato. So that was where I started. So that was going to be my trigger. Sitting down on the couch was going to be the thing that would get me to do that first thing, that first step that was going to be my first success. Now, the other thing with putting in place your tiny habits, so you need to have something that's really small, can achieve in 30 seconds or less, something that, it's going to work best if it's actually linked to a habit that you already have and that there's kind of a logical sequence to it. But the other thing is to make sure that there's nothing that's going to act as a barrier to you actually doing it. Yes, you need to find your exercise shoes, Roz, definitely. So you might find, yes, this is where I'm up to, about the exercise shoes. So at this point in time, my exercise shoes were like at the back of my wardrobe, somewhere in my bedroom. So if I came home from work, sat down on the couch, would I actually really be putting on my exercise shoes next? No, I was not going to be. So I actually had to go and dig out my exercise shoes and find them, and I gave them position right at the position where I was going to sit on my couch. So I basically had to trip over them to find them. It was unavoidable. And then, so I'd come home, do my routine, sit down on the couch, trip over the shoes, put them on my feet, and then stand up and go, now what? But just the standing up, I'd achieved what I wanted. Now, it didn't take me very long before I actually then started to do something. I'm going, hey, I've got my shoes on, I might as well do something. But even if I didn't, so, occasionally I wouldn't, I had still achieved some level of success. I had achieved that tiny, tiny, tiny goal, and it became a habit. So since then, I've actually linked other things into this habit all around, my building a healthier, more balanced life. But that was my starting point. And now I actually have a habit where every single day I do some kind of exercise. It started from that tiny point back in 2017. Yes, interesting, Roz. That probably goes back to the thing. I'll just put this up so anyone else who's watching. So Roz is just saying that she's been able to create the habit of doing a daily Lenormand card spread for over 18 months. And I would suggest that this is probably the bit that I did talk about briefly that I'm coming back to. You need to have the motivation to do it. So if at this point in time, you kind of go, oh, I know I should exercise. Everybody tells me I should be exercising, but you don't have the passion and the desire to do it, then it's just not going to happen. So, and this is part of BJ Fogg's research that found you have to have that motivating factor to be able to, create this change. So you need to have your motivating factor. You need to have something that's tiny enough so it's not going to be any kind of stress to do it. It's like a no-brainer. And you need to make sure there's nothing going to be blocking it physically. So in the sense that my shoes were in the cupboard. So it is really about how you're going to design things. But this is why starting with that vision and then, developing your goals and making sure that all along the line it is something that you're motivated to do, you're passionate about, then it will happen. Yes, exactly, Roz. So if you don't have a desire for exercise, and hey, I'm hearing you, that's where I was, 2017. I was quite happy being a couch potato, eating my chocolate, let's be honest. But I had one of those, wake up call moments, and kind of went on from there. So, start, and this probably leads into something that I wasn't going to talk about, but I might as well, seeing as we've kind of got around to that with Roz's comments as well. What you may find is that as you start to build some of these tiny habits and you're feeling the success of them, you may actually find that you get more motivated because it definitely has an impact on your emotions. And that's what I'm about to talk about now. So there is kind of a flow through where you can, kind of build more and different kinds of habits around it. So the final part of the process is not really something that I knew about and that I used when I set this in place. And this is the celebration. So I've sat down, put my shoes on, stood up, taken a step, and the next part is the celebration. Now, the celebration doesn't have to be having a party, going and getting a block of chocolate or anything else. All it needs to be is some little sign to your brain that you have achieved something and you are really happy about it. So, on the ones that I create now, I might do something like a woohoo or yay, or, do a fist pump, or just something that just feels like an action to acknowledge that I've done this thing that I had planned on doing. And your brain loves feeling that positive energy. It feeds off of it, and it can actually then help to keep you on track and keep going with the habit. So the other part to this is also, because it's a tiny habit, it's not that hard to do, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So the other part, also in line with keeping your brain happy and positive and, helping you to achieve it, is don't beat yourself up if it's only one day. One day I haven't put my exercise shoes on, whatever. If it gets to being a habit of not putting my exercise shoes on, then I still don't beat myself up about it. I go and say, what about this is not working? How can I change it so that it will happen? And you kind of go back through the process. So BJ Fogg's system, he talks about creating these recipes, and you kind of end up with a bit of a statement about how it's going to work. So for example, with, my whole starting my exercise routine, my recipe would be, when I get home from work, I'm going to sit on the couch, put on my exercise shoes and take a step, because that's what would be my success, would be actually managing to do that. So it is it does take a little bit of time just to kind of think about how you're going to do it and make sure that everything's in place, but it's not really hard. And then actually doing it, you feel an amazing sense of accomplishment. So, give it a little bit of a go. Let me just check and see if there's anything else I wanted to say that I haven't. All right, so we've done all of that. All right, we've got that. Yeah, so we talked about the celebration, really important part of it. All right, so get started. That's the only way to actually make change. Think about what your big goal is. Do a bit of breaking it down. I'd say, just go through a couple of steps where you're refining it down to something. Then when you're happy with the goal, ask yourself, what is the smallest positive action I can take that will be the first step in success for this goal? How can I make that happen is the next question. So is there a habit I already have that I can connect it to? Is there something I can put in place or sometimes take away? I didn't talk about the takeaway, but sometimes it's remove something. So is there something that's blocking you from actually doing it? So it could be adding, could be blocking. Deal with that. Set up the environment for success. And then do it and celebrate. Okay? And you can keep going like that. So obviously this is a very brief overview of the whole process. if you want to get more information, then I would highly recommend reading or listening to the book by BJ Fogg, which is just called, I think it's just called Tiny Habits. The reason I'm recommending that one is because he's the one who's done all the research, and he's done heaps of research around it. So he's got lots of really great tips and, talks about the process in a lot of detail. Otherwise, there's books like Atomic Habits, another great book, or Mini Habits, also a great book, all around the same kind of topic. So you can find or listen to, I think all of them are actually audio books as well, if you like doing them. So do a bit of research for yourself, but the process that I've given you today is enough to get you started. And it does make a huge difference. It is easy to do. You have this kind of little burst of, whoa, I've achieved something, that keeps you going. And it's amazing how you can build it up. But the other side that makes it positive is that you're not beating yourself up if you don't achieve it every single day. Well, no, the first step for you, Roz, back to the exercise, is to actually decide that you need to have exercise and be motivated. So if you're not motivated for it, it doesn't matter if you find the shoes, it's probably not going to happen. So figure out something that's going to motivate you to exercise. Otherwise, what's some other habits that you can create that would have a really good impact on your life that will take you forward in the direction that you want? So it's not always about exercise. That's just my example, because that was a massive shift for me to go from couch potato to, being someone who now actually enjoys exercising every day, love getting out and walking, spending all that time out of doors. So not a problem, Roz. Thank you. I'm glad that we've kind of gone through a little bit of that, but hopefully you will find that motivation to exercise. But if not, it's fine. Find something else to go with. All right. I think I have pretty much finished everything that I was going to talk about today. So thank you for joining me. Now, next week, I am really excited about what we're going to be doing. So I'm back to my normal time of 4 p.m. That's Adelaide time, South Australian time. My special guest is Trish Blythman, and she's got an incredible story, as so many of my guests do. She's been through all kinds of things, and I would characterize her story probably by using the adjective courageous. So if you find courageous stories really interesting, and if they inspire you, you will love hearing from her next week. But even more exciting, if you love prizes and giveaways, join me, because we're going to be having that happening as well. So we're going to have 3 prizes to give away for people who join us during the broadcast. We're also going to have someone who is going to have like a special reading, I'll call it. More details will come out as I send all of the info out. So it's going to be super exciting. So please join us. Please spread the word. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I know here in Adelaide it's looking beautiful at the moment. Sunshine is out. It's even going to be hot tomorrow. So I hope you have a great weekend wherever you are. And have a go. Try building some tiny habits that are going to give you some success in creating the life that you want to create. All right. Bye for now. Yes, Roz, Trish is amazing. So I can't wait. All right. Bye.